I found out my husband was cheating weeks after giving birth, and his mistress was 21. Now his mother won't stop crying and begging me to stay. I still can't believe this is my life. 10 years together, 5 years married, and the arrival of our beautiful baby boy just 4 months ago. Everything felt perfect. Or so I thought. The news of my husband's affair hit me like a wrecking ball. It's as if the foundation of my entire life crumbled in an instant. It started subtly. He was acting strange, distant in a way that I couldn't quite put my finger on. When I confronted him, never in my wildest dreams did I expect him to confess what he did. Yet there it was. He admitted it had been a 3-month affair with a 21-year-old woman, and though he claimed it ended 3 weeks ago, the betrayal feels fresh and raw, like an open wound. He said he's been doing the work to understand his actions, to fix us. But how do you fix something when trust is shattered? I've been a stay-at-home mom since our son was born. I left my career behind because we agreed this was best for our family. But now, standing on the edge of this betrayal, I feel trapped, like my life has become a cage. How can I ever trust him again? How do I rebuild when everything we built together feels like a lie? He said all the things a man in his position should say. It was the biggest mistake of his life. He loves me, he doesn't want to lose me or our son. He's begging for couples therapy. But his excuses only cut deeper. Stress from work, adjusting to fatherhood. The affair wasn't about sex but some kind of emotional outlet. I don't even know who this man is anymore. And then there's his mother. Let me say this, I love my mother-in-law. Truly. She's one of the kindest, most loving people I've ever known. From the moment I married into this family, she treated me like her own daughter. She adores our son, her only grandchild, and she's been a rock for me during tough times. But now, she's calling me every day, sometimes crying, sometimes pleading. I can't lose you, she says. I can't lose my grandson. Her words are heart-wrenching. She's not excusing what her son did. She's furious with him, but she's begging me to stay, not just for him but for her and the baby. She's even offered to pay for therapy, help with childcare, or do whatever it takes to make things work. Every time I hang up the phone, I feel like I'm drowning. I don't know what to do. My husband is trying so hard to prove he's changed. He's throwing himself into fatherhood and keeps saying all the right things, but my heart feels like it's made of glass, and every word from him is a stone. My trust is gone, and I don't know if it will ever return. I've only told one close friend, someone I thought I could lean on, but even she urged me to consider reconciliation. My parents don't know yet. I'm too scared to tell them. I know they'll support me no matter what, but I can't bear to hear the disappointment in their voices. Some nights, I stare at my son while he sleeps, so tiny and perfect, and I wonder what's best for him. If I leave, I'll be starting over from scratch. I'll be a single mom, with no income of my own right now. But if I stay, will I ever feel safe in my own marriage again? I'm torn between the love I had, the life I thought I was building, and the unbearable betrayal that's threatening to take it all away. What would you do? Update 1. After days of crying, thinking, and trying to process everything, I started to realize that my life as I knew it was over. Not my physical life, obviously, but the life I thought I had. The man I married, the man I trusted with everything, who held my hand in the delivery room just 4 months ago while I brought our son into the world, wasn't who I thought he was. Every time I look at him now, I feel a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal that I can't even describe. It's like a constant heaviness in my chest, and I don't know how to make it go away. What's worse is that I can't escape him. We live in the same house, and while he's been giving me space, I can feel his presence everywhere. Every time I hear him moving around the house, I feel like I'm suffocating. He's been sleeping on the couch, which is what I asked him to do, but even that doesn't make me feel any better. He keeps trying to talk to me, to explain, to apologize, but the more he talks, the more it feels like he's just making excuses. He's still pushing for therapy, which I haven't agreed to yet. I know I probably should, but the thought of sitting in a room with him and a stranger and talking about all of this makes my skin crawl. Then there's my mother-in-law. She hasn't let up. She's been calling me almost daily, sometimes multiple times a day. I know she means well, and I know she loves me, but every time I hear her voice, it's like a reminder of everything I'm about to lose. She keeps begging me to stay, saying she doesn't want to lose me or her grandson, and every time she says it, I just want to scream. I know she's hurting too, but her calls are making it harder for me to think clearly. She keeps saying things like, I know he made a mistake, but he's a good man, and we're family, and we can get through this together. But I don't feel like family anymore. I feel like a stranger in this house, in this marriage, in my own life. I've been spending most of my time focusing on my son. He's the only thing keeping me sane right now. Every time I look at his little face, I feel a mix of overwhelming love and heartbreaking sadness. I never wanted this for him. I wanted him to grow up in a happy, stable home with two parents who loved each other. But now, I don't even know what that looks like anymore. How do I give him the life he deserves when I feel so broken? One night, while my husband was asleep on the couch, I decided to go through his phone. I know it's not the healthiest thing to do, but I needed answers. I needed to know if there was more to the story than what he was telling me. He had given me his phone password voluntarily when everything first came out, saying he had nothing to hide, so I figured it wouldn't be a big deal. What I found wasn't anything new, but it still hit me like a ton of bricks. There were old messages between him and the girl he had the affair with. He had deleted most of them, but a few were still there, buried deep in a thread he must have forgotten about. They were flirty, inappropriate, and just plain disrespectful. Seeing those words in black and white, written by the man I thought I knew, made my stomach turn. I felt physically ill. I confronted him about it the next morning, and his reaction was exactly what I expected. He apologized, said he didn't know those messages were still there, and claimed he deleted everything as soon as the affair ended. He said it wasn't because he was trying to hide anything from me, but because he was ashamed and wanted to erase that part of his life. I don't know if I believe him. At this point, I don't know what to believe anymore. The next day, I told him I needed to leave the house for a while. I packed up some things for me and the baby and went to stay with a close friend. I didn't tell him where I was going, and I didn't give him a timeline for when I'd be back. I just needed to get out of there. Being in that house with him was driving me crazy, and I needed space to think. My friend has been amazing, letting me vent, cry, and just be. She's been a lifesaver, honestly. While I've been here, I've started looking into my options. I don't have a job right now, and I don't have much in the way of savings, but I do have a degree and some work experience. I've started updating my resume and applying for jobs online. It's scary, but it also feels empowering in a weird way. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm taking control of my life. My husband has been texting me nonstop since I left. He keeps asking me to come home, saying he misses me and the baby, and that he's willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. He's also been texting my friend, asking her to talk to me on his behalf, which I find incredibly annoying. My friend has been great about shutting him down, but it's still frustrating that he won't respect my boundaries. Then there's my mother-in-law. She's also been blowing up my phone, leaving voicemails that I can't even bring myself to listen to. I know she's worried and scared, but I can't deal with her right now. I need to focus on myself and my son. I can't make decisions based on what she wants or needs. This is my life, my marriage, and my future. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back, but another part of me is terrified of what that would mean. What if I can't make it on my own? What if leaving destroys my son's chance at a stable, happy life? But then I think about staying, and the thought of being with someone who betrayed me so deeply makes me feel sick. Right now, I'm just taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on my son, my job search, and figuring out what I want for my future. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that I deserve better than this. My son deserves better than this. And whatever I decide, it will be for him and for me, not for anyone else. Update 2. I didn't expect to be back here so soon, but so much has happened that I feel like I need to put it all into words. If nothing else, it helps me process everything. I wish I could say things are clearer now, but if anything, they've become more complicated. After a week at my friend's place, I started to feel a little more human. Getting out of the house helped in ways I didn't even realize I needed. My friend is a saint. She's been there for me every step of the way, even when I've been an emotional mess. There were nights when I stayed up crying, wondering if I was ruining my son's future by considering leaving. Other nights, I felt empowered, ready to rebuild my life from scratch. The whiplash is exhausting, but I guess that's just part of this process. Then my husband showed up. I wasn't expecting it. I hadn't told him where I was, but I guess he figured it out, probably through mutual friends. He's nothing if not persistent. He came to my friend's house, flowers in hand, asking to talk. My first instinct was to slam the door in his face, but my friend gently reminded me that I might regret not hearing him out. Against my better judgment, I let him in. He was a mess. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes were red, and he kept wringing his hands like he didn't know what to do with them. He apologized, again, and begged me to come home. He said he's been going to therapy alone since I left and has been working on himself. He swore up and down that the affair wasn't about me, that it wasn't because of anything I did or didn't do, but because of his own insecurities and issues he hadn't dealt with. I don't know if I believe him. Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to believe that he's genuinely trying, that he's capable of change, and that we could somehow make this work for the sake of our son. But then I think about the messages I found, the lies he told, and the fact that he broke our vows in the first place. How do I ever trust someone who's capable of that? He asked if I would at least consider therapy. He said he doesn't expect me to forgive him overnight, or maybe ever, but that he wants to show me he's willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. He even brought up a post-nup, saying he'd sign anything I wanted if it made me feel safer. That caught me off guard, honestly. He's never been the type to bring up legal stuff like that, so it made me wonder if he's really serious, or if he's just desperate. I told him I needed more time to think and asked him to leave. He didn't argue. He just nodded, gave me a sad smile, and walked out. I haven't seen him in person since, but he's still texting me daily, sending long messages about how much he loves me and our son, how sorry he is, and how he's committed to making things work. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law hasn't let up either. She found out I left the house and immediately called me, crying again. She begged me to talk to her, saying she understands how I feel but that I need to think about the bigger picture. She keeps saying things like, he made a mistake, but he's still a good man, and your son deserves to have both parents in his life. I know she means well, but her calls leave me emotionally drained every time. I've started letting them go to voicemail because I just can't handle it right now. On the practical side of things, I've been making progress. I updated my resume and have started applying for jobs. It's been years since I was in the workforce, so I'm not expecting immediate results, but just taking that first step has been empowering. I even had a phone interview last week, which felt like a small victory. If I do decide to leave, I want to know I can support myself and my son without relying on anyone else. But here's where things get messy. The girl he had the affair with, let's call her A, decided to reach out to me. Yep, you read that right. Out of nowhere, I got a message from her on social media. At first, I thought it was a joke or a scam, but it was definitely her. She started the message by apologizing and saying she never meant to hurt me or my family. She claimed she didn't know he was married at first and ended things immediately when she found out. I don't know if I believe her. Her timeline doesn't match up with some of the things my husband told me, so either he lied to her or she's lying to me. Honestly, it doesn't even matter at this point. The damage is done, and nothing she says will change that. Still, it was weird hearing from her. I didn't respond. I don't think I ever will. One thing her message did do was confirm how young she is. I mean, I knew her age, 21, but seeing her photos and the way she writes just hammered it home. She's practically a kid. It made me feel even angrier at my husband, not just for cheating but for involving someone so young and naive in our mess. It's gross, honestly. As for my son, he's the one bright spot in all of this. He's growing so fast, and every time he smiles or giggles, it reminds me of what's truly important. I want to make the best decision for him, but I'm struggling to figure out what that is. Staying might give him a traditional family, but would it really be happy? Leaving would give me peace of mind, but it would mean breaking up his home before he's even old enough to remember it. Either way, I know he'll be loved, but the guilt is eating me alive. Right now, I'm still at my friend's place, trying to sort through my emotions and figure out my next steps. I haven't made any decisions yet, but I'm leaning toward asking my husband to move out of the house so I can move back in with the baby. It doesn't feel fair that I had to leave when he's the one who screwed up. At the same time, I worry that being in that house will just bring back all the memories and make it harder to move forward. I guess the main thing I've learned through all of this is that there are no easy answers. No matter what I do, someone will get hurt, and that's a hard pill to swallow. For now, I'm focusing on what I can control, finding a job, taking care of my son, and figuring out what I want for my future. Thank you to everyone who's been kind and supportive. It means more than you know.